Hello, my name is Katie, and this is session 3 of the Coping with Worry and Anxiety CBT course. I suggest that you follow these modules once a week, starting from week 1 through to week 6 if you are new to the course. You can always listen to specific sessions at a later date if you think this would be helpful. You might find it useful to take some notes, so I suggest you find a pen and paper before continuing. In the last session, you were introduced to the physical symptoms of anxiety, the fight, flight and freeze response, and how to control your physical symptoms of anxiety using different relaxation techniques. Take a few minutes to reflect on how you got on with the suggested practice from the last session. Use the following questions to help you reflect. Did you practice controlled breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, or imaginal relaxation? Did it make a difference to your anxiety levels? Have you felt less tension in your body? Have you noticed a difference in your mood after exercising? Did you reduce your alcohol or caffeine intake? And has your mood changed as a result? Have you slept better? Did you implement any sleep hygiene techniques? Did you continue using your worry diary? Today's session considers how to tackle type 1 and type 2 worries by using problem solving and through challenging our worrying thoughts. Remember, a worry is a thought that goes through your mind. It could be an image or a memory. A worry is concerned with the future, and when it relates to the past, it is concerned with how something might affect us in the future. Let's remember the types of worries that we can have. Type 1 worries are current issues or problems that exist, such as, I don't have money to pay a bill, or I need my car repaired. And type 2 worries are hypothetical worries. These often start with, what if, and relate to situations that haven't happened yet, and that might never happen. An example is, what if my computer just stops working during a meeting and I get fired because of my technology skills? And type 3 worries are worries about worrying, such as, worrying is going to make me ill, or worrying stops bad things from happening. You will learn how to deal with type 3 worries in the next session. First, take a moment to think about how you deal with your worries now. The most obvious way of dealing with our worries would be to just stop it, put it out of your mind, or think about something else. It is not as simple as this, or we would be able to manage worry with no problem. Trying to push worries aside, just stop worrying, or replace our worries with another thought is not effective, and the worries tend to come back. It also takes a lot of effort to not think about something. Let's try a little experiment. Try not to think about a skating penguin for the next 30 seconds. How was that for you? Was it easy or difficult? Most people try to push their worries out of their mind by mentally thinking about something else or keeping themselves busy. This might work for a short while, but most of the thoughts will come back later, usually when we are trying to relax or go to sleep. This is because thoughts are automatic, and these will often come back unless we find another way of dealing with them. We need to find a more effective and practical way of dealing with our unhelpful worries instead of just trying to shut them out. We need to come up with another way of looking at things, a new perspective. The first step is identifying which type of worry we have. Take some time to try the following. Try to make a note of a recent worry or pick one from your worry diary. Try to label it as a type 1 or type 2 worry. If you have identified a type 1 worry, a problem that exists, then you can use problem solving to deal with this. Remember, a type 1 worry could be paying a bill, getting your MOT done, or meeting a deadline. Problem solving is a technique that can help you approach things in a different way by being proactive. There are benefits to using problem solving to deal with your type 1 worries, such as being proactive and finding solutions makes you feel better, and the more problems you solve, the less you will have to worry about. Our attitude matters when we talk about problem solving. This is because people with problematic worry tend to see problems as threats and underestimate their own ability to deal with or cope with their problems. They are also more likely to focus on the worst outcome and avoid directly addressing the problem. Having a different attitude and seeing problems as part of everyday life might be more helpful and lead us to become more proactive and find solutions. It is important to know that when we feel depressed, we might find it harder to concentrate and use our problem-solving skills. Using a step-by-step approach might therefore also help us improve our mood. Positive problem-solving can be helpful because we can't escape from all problems and stresses in life. Try to ask yourself what you can learn from a situation or problem that can help you going forward. Other things we need to learn is to see problems as a normal part of life, to see problems as opportunities rather than threats. Also, try to remind yourself that when we are proactive and find solutions, we'll improve our skills and typically we will feel better. If you think you can do something about your worries, but you are not too sure where to start, you can use the 8-step problem-solving technique described as follows. Step 1. Clearly state the problem. Step 2. Ask yourself what will happen if I don't solve this problem. Step 3. Ask yourself what will happen if I do solve this problem. Step 4. Brainstorm solutions and ask for help if you get stuck, considering the pros and cons of each solution. Step 5. Choose the best option. Step 6. Work out a plan. Step 7. Put your plan into action. And Step 8. Review how it went and choose another option if you need to. Let's look at an example. Mark feels anxious. His boss asked him to write a report which is due in a couple of weeks, and he hasn't started it yet. His work colleagues have nearly finished their reports, which makes him feel worse. He worries about what will happen if he doesn't get it finished on time, and he thinks that even if he does, it will not be to the standard it should be. The more he thinks about it, the more anxious he becomes. Let's break Mark's problem down using the problem-solving technique. Step 1. Clearly stating the problem. I have a report due in a couple of weeks and I haven't started it yet. I feel anxious about it. Step 2. What if I don't solve the problem? I will annoy my boss as it will affect his own deadlines. I'll feel disappointed in myself for not trying. I'll be worried about what my boss will say and think. Step 3. What if I do solve the problem? What would the benefits be? I will feel better about myself. I won't be worried about the problem anymore. It will give me the confidence to problem solve in the future. I might get my report finished and handed in on time. Step 4. Brainstorm as many solutions as you can. Write down any ideas you can think of to solve the problem, no matter how silly they may seem. Then go through each of your options and think about the pros and cons of each. These are Mark's ideas from his brainstorm. Contact my boss and ask for more time. Make a start on it. I might get it finished on time. Set aside time each day to work on it. Try to reuse an old report and hope no one notices. Ask my colleagues for help with it. don't do it at all and leave my job. Step 5. Choose the best option or options from your list based on the advantages and disadvantages. Make a start on it. I might still get it finished on time. I'll set aside time each day to work on it, and I'll ask my colleagues for help with it. And then I'll also contact my boss to ask for more time. Step 6. Work out a plan. Plan step by step what you'll need to do to carry out this solution. What, when, how, with whom, or what? What could cause problems? How can you get around those problems? Is your plan realistic and achievable? Here is Mark's plan. I will ask my colleagues for help. They might give me some tips to help me get started. I'll set aside 3 hours each day to do my report. I'll make a start on it on Thursday. I'll aim to do 400 words each night, which still gives me an extra time to read over it and make any changes that might be required. If I stick to my plan, I will finish my report on time and make the deadline. Step 7. Put it into action. Do it. Carry out your plan. Step 8. Review how it went by asking the following questions. Did you achieve what you set out to achieve? If not, what could have been done differently? What have you learned? Let's look at Mark's reflections. I finished my report on time. Next time I will make a plan once I'm given a task to complete. Leaving it to last minute makes me miserable and anxious. I found others' support really helpful, as it's easier to come up with a good solution with help from others. Use the step plan to tackle one of your type 1 worries which you identified earlier. You might find it helpful to write it down. The next step is challenging your type 2 worries. The type 2 worries are the type of worries and thoughts that start with what if. They are about things that might never happen. What if my car will not start? What if I get fired because of my technology skills? What if my friend doesn't speak to me again? The outcome that we imagine in our mind is usually negative and focuses on the worst outcome possible. Usually, these are accompanied by beliefs that we are unable to cope or deal with the outcome. These worries are hypothetical and usually not amenable to problem solving. Can you identify any type 2 worries? We'll try and work on them now. When we tackle type 2 worries, our perception is important. This is the way we see things. We all see things differently. What do you see here in this picture? Some people see an older woman. Some people see a younger woman. Perception is important because it is not a situation that makes us feel anxious. Rather, it is our perception of this. In other words, how we interpret a situation. Our perception can be based upon past experiences. And changing the way we think about situations and seeing different perspectives can help us to feel less anxious and engage in helpful behaviours. Here is an example. Imagine you're walking down the street and you see a friend. You wave and they don't wave back. You might start to think, what if they are mad at me? Your heart is going a bit faster and you might start to sweat. You go through your text messages to see if you might have offended them in some way, and you start to feel anxious. Imagine the same scenario, but in this one your thoughts are different. Imagine you're walking down the street and you see a friend. You wave and they don't wave back. You think, they looked busy and they were on the phone, so they probably didn't see me. You don't do anything differently. You just get on with your day, there are no changes in your body, and you don't feel any different emotionally. Often our worries and other types of negative thoughts are as a result of unhelpful thinking styles, such as making negative predictions about the future, seeing things in black and white, filtering out the positive, or mind reading what others think of us. When we are anxious, we often view things in a different way, and these thinking patterns can fuel our worries and anxiety. Being aware of our unhelpful thinking styles can help us stand back from worrying thoughts and challenge them. Can you identify with any of these unhelpful thinking styles? Look at the worries you noted down earlier. Focus on the type 2 worries. Are you using any unhelpful thinking styles? Sometimes it can be helpful to challenge our thoughts by putting them under the microscope. The first step is to ask yourself, what am I predicting is going to happen? And be specific. How much do I believe it will happen? Use a scale of 0 to 10, with 10 meaning most likely. How anxious am I feeling? Again, use a scale of 0 to 10, with 10 meaning most anxious. You might find these questions helpful to ask yourself when you are challenging your thoughts. What unhelpful thinking style does this fit into? What's my evidence for this prediction? What's my evidence against this prediction? What's the worst outcome? What's the best outcome? What's the most likely outcome? What can I do to cope with this? How many times in the past have I worried like this? What was the outcome? Is this way of thinking helping or hindering me? What advice would I give to a friend? Are there any actions I can take? When you challenge your thoughts, it is important to remember that it is not the situation itself that is making you feel anxious. It is your perception of that situation. So changing the way we think about situations and seeing different perspectives can help us to feel less anxious. When you're feeling worried, you look for and find threats that keep you feeling anxious. You zoom in on threats. You find evidence for your fears. You ignore evidence against your fears. The process of thought challenging your type 2 worries is a bit like being in a jury in a court case. You are looking at all the available evidence to come to a new, more balanced view. The evidence for your thoughts refers to information that fills back up your thoughts. This can be how you feel in the here and now, in your body, or your previous experiences. It is important that this is based upon facts and not feelings and opinions. The evidence against your thoughts refers to all the information that contradicts your thought. For example, remembering the worst didn't happen in the past when you thought it would, and other situations where you have coped before. Weigh up the evidence for and against your thoughts and try to come to an alternative, more realistic and balanced perspective. Sometimes it can help to ask your partner or a friend to help you with this task, because they will be able to offer an alternative view. Let's look at Cameron's example together. Cameron has emailed the task he has completed to his boss. Next time they speak, his boss says, "That's fine, Cameron, but can you try and do it a bit quicker next time?" He can feel his muscles tensing and he goes bright red. He starts to think, "Was that slow? Why am I so rubbish at this? Why can't I get it right?" He starts to worry that he'll get fired and then his family will get into debt. He can't stop worrying about it and he develops a headache. He starts making mistakes in his job. By the end of the day, he's still tense and has started to feel sick as well. Now let's work through how Cameron could develop a more realistic, balanced view of the same situation. Remember, it is not the situation that is making Cameron feel anxious. It is his perception of it. Cameron asks himself the following questions. What am I worried about? I'm worried about work and what my boss said about being quicker. Specifically, what am I predicting will happen? I will get a warning or get sacked. How much do I believe it will happen on a scale of 0 to 10? 8 out of 10. How anxious am I feeling on a scale of 0 to 10? 9 out of 10. What unhelpful thinking style does this fit into? I'm mind reading and fortune telling. I'm also really catastrophizing and jumping to the worst possible conclusion. What's my evidence against this prediction? So far, he has always been pleased with my work. He spoke to me later that day and did not mention it. I remember now he said to ask for help if I am not sure about things. My appraisal was good. What's the worst outcome? I'll get sacked from my job. What's the best outcome? I'll keep my job and he will not mention this again. What's the most likely outcome? I'll keep my job. Once I've had the time to do that task again, it will get easier and I will get quicker. What can I do to cope with this? Remind myself of the most likely outcome. Focus on the task and my confidence will grow. Ask for help when I need it. Let my boss know if I need extra time to do things. If I did get sacked at the end of the day, I would cope. It would be hard, but I would still get by until I found something else. How many times in the past have I worried like this? What was the outcome? Lots of times, and it has always been okay in the end. Is this way of thinking helping or hindering me? It holds me back, stops me from concentrating on things and enjoying the present moment. What advice would I give a friend? If your boss was not happy, they would have let you know. Stop being so hard on yourself. Are there any actions I can take? If I've got too much to do and this slows me down, I can let my boss know and we can agree priorities. My balanced conclusion is, I will not get sacked. One comment does not mean that my work is not good enough, and if I'm ever struggling to do things, I will ask for help. Re-rate the original prediction using a scale of 0 to 10. 3 out of 10. Re-rate the anxiety feeling using a scale of 0 to 10. 2 out of 10. Go back to your recent example. Try to use the questions to challenge your worries and reach a more balanced conclusion. Remember to measure your anxiety levels before and after so you can see whether you feel less anxious. Did you reach a balanced conclusion? Did you feel less anxious? The goal of this task is to teach you to recognise, untangle and tackle your worries and negative predictions, which makes you feel anxious. It is hoped that over time you will become an expert in identifying and challenging your worries. It is a new skill and will not happen overnight. It takes time and practice. In time, you might find that you no longer need to record your worries in the worksheet, and you will learn to do this in your head. If you're unsure whether your worry is a type 1 or type 2, and whether to use problem solving or challenge the thought, ask yourself, what am I worrying about? Is this a real or likely problem? Can I do something about this? If the answer is yes, use problem solving. If the answer is no, challenge your thoughts. Think back to the CBT vicious cycle you were introduced to in session 1. Today we have started to challenge the altered thinking. There are some things that you can put into practice from what you have learned. Put your problem-solving plan into action for the type 1 worry you identified today. Think about your attitude when you encounter a problem and see if you can view this as an opportunity rather than a threat. Use the problem-solving steps to tackle any current or new type 1 worries. Challenge your type 2 worries using the questions covered today and by finding evidence for and against. Thank you for taking your time to watch session 3 of the Coping with Worry and Anxiety course. I hope that it has been helpful.